Hey y'all, it's Matt Johnson and Cyrus Reed together again for the legislative update. Cyrus,
Yes.
what a week it has been. You've been really busy, but actually not a lot of time spent delivering testimony in committee. Can you tell us about your week?
I did not testify once this week. What I did is do a lot of door-to-door sales. I was shopping proposed bills because the deadline for filing bills is at the end of next week. And then I was really covering Appropriations Committee and the subcommittees dealing with particular agencies and letting those offices know our views, but also pulling aside members as I saw them walking down the halls or when they were on a break and saying, hey, this is a real priority for us.
Yeah, there were a lot of funding sources that were in jeopardy, or funding proposals that were in jeopardy this week, and we managed to gain back some traction. Can you tell that story?
Yeah, I was sitting in the subcommittee meeting on Article 6, and they were talking about the TCQ budget, and specifically budget for monitoring and mobile monitoring of toxics. Big issue after Harvey. TCQ didn't have the equipment they needed to see if there were problems.
Right.
We advocated that they get some more money, but that committee was putting it in something called Article 11, which is like purgatory. It's at the back of the budget. It means it's not in there.
Right.
So I tweeted about it. Got some calls. We got our coalition members together in Houston and statewide, other conservation organizations, people who work with folks in those neighborhoods. We got some letters into the committee, and lo and behold, a day later, or 2 days later, they brought it back up, and they didn't fund it totally, but they funded it partially. So that was a victory, which shows what coalition work can do.
Right. Coalition work, working in partnerships, that becomes a really critical component of making progress on bills and legislation and funding. And another example that came up this week is SB 15, which is a huge bill. Can you talk a little bit about that and what role we
That
play
is
there?
one of the lieutenant governor and the governor's priority, and it's all about what I call state intervention. It's the state going in and telling local governments, you can't do this. Specifically, it's on work standards and
Paid sick leave.
paid sick leave, time off. And we've had a number of cities that have adopted ordinances recently in the past year or so, and this was the state saying you can't do that. And so we are not experts on that issue, but we did stand in solidarity with AFL-CIO, with Workers' Defense Fund, with Texas Municipal League and others to say, no, we are about local democracy and letting local government make decisions with the input of local citizens, and so we stand in solidarity against that
Right,
bill.
and we've seen this happen before. This has happened in several sessions. 2 sessions ago, there was the big HB 40 that stripped away local jurisdictions from addressing fracking within their own communities. That was taken away. And just last session, can you talk a little bit about what
Well,
happened?
last session, the governor actually called a special session, and one of the items he put on special session is, we got to deal with these pesky local ordinances on heritage trees, protecting old growth trees. Fortunately, we're able to, for the most part, beat that back, but again, we're seeing this pattern
Right.
where our present leadership wants to tell local government what it can and can't do.
Right, right. Switching gears, let's talk about the week ahead. The activity is really picking up. There's a specific bill you wanted to mention by Dade Phelan that's up for a hearing.
Yeah, I believe it's HB 478. It's the big flood infrastructure funding bill. And we know from Harvey that there is a lack of funding and a lack of a statewide plan on flooding. So there's some good in the bill. We're concerned that the bill doesn't really specifically talk about whether this infrastructure fund can be used for what we'd call green infrastructure. In other words, buying land, protecting the riparian corridors to make sure that when there is flooding, we've got land to absorb all that water, and that we don't just build a bunch of more concrete barriers which could actually make the flooding worse. So we want to work with his office and make sure the language is good, and they can prioritize some of that green infrastructure.
Right. So before we sign off, Cyrus is doing a lot of talking at the Capitol, making a lot of conversations happen, and we're doing our best to get the word out. What would be great is if you got the word out too. A few minutes ago, Cyrus talked about tweeting a lot of what's going on, the minutia of what's going on, but the stakes are so high that a lot of people are paying attention. So I think it'd be a great assignment if all of y'all, if you're on Twitter, would tweet about this and tag your legislators about this and tell them what you think about these bills.
In fact, Tony Rose, who's the chair of that committee, pointed at me and said, "You tweeting about me?" And I said, "Yes, I am, because this is an important issue." And after she made the decision, I said, "I tweeted something nice about you." So they are listening, even if they don't sometimes like it.
So there's your assignment, Sierra Club members. Get your member of the legislature to say, "You tweeting about me?" See ya.